Hey everyone, so this week we are going to make a UV resin pop socket. Got some paints and alcohol ink as well as a mica powder and some little stones here, going to create this really neat pop socket. So those were all of our supplies, everything I'll be using to make this. Real simple, easy project to put together pretty quickly because it is so small and easy. So I have this leveling table and it's got a silicone pad on top of it, and I felt like that would be a good base to have under me so that I could do this pop socket. Of course, I hid my pop socket on myself. All right, so first layer I want to add is my paint. Get this paint coat down. So I love purple and teals, and I'm finding that that's really my colors at the moment. So you're going to see a lot of projects coming up that are going to include kind of this color scheme that I'm going with. So I didn't want the whole thing purple, so I just painted a strip. As you can see, not a great line going there. That's fine. More than anything, I just want to get kind of a base color underneath started. This isn't going to be our final color or look that would be on top, but if anything were to be able to be seen through our top layers that will be with the resin, I didn't want the white peeking through. I wanted some color. So doing a little pink line. I think this pink was like flamingo or something, and if anybody knows, my mom loved flamingos, and so that's kind of my tribute to her. I've also been including a lot of little things like that in my projects. Whether I say it or not, there's little tributes or connections. So a little bit of pink. I believe I was just wiping off my brush out of camera there. Yeah, so that I could go over to the teal here. So there's the teal getting added. Basically, not perfect like sections by any means. Really was trying to capture kind of like an ocean sunset scene that has those teal of the ocean, the blues, and then we have your pink into the purple, like orangish pink into that deep purple kind of view or look. So that's kind of what I was going for initially. That's my inspiration. Got my little counterculture heat gun. Blast a little heat on this, speed up our drying process of the acrylic paint. You could just have this prepped and leave it to dry fully naturally, and then maybe come back and work on it later. You could absolutely do this, but for the purpose of getting this all done in one group or sitting, I decided let's dry up that paint with the heat gun. So just going over that, making sure that paint is really dry. My acrylics were very wet, not maybe the most mixed, so I wanted to ensure they were fully dry. Alright, so got that pop socket. Now we got our UV resin and all of our little supplies that I wanted to make this happen. Oh, UV resin decided to go flying out of there. Got these little cups. I'll link those. They're from Amazon. They're great for UV resin projects because you can put a little bit of resin in and mix what you need to. This bottle is getting really empty. As you can see, I am squeezing pretty good to get enough resin in there for me to do this. So, setting that aside, you'll notice I don't have gloves on. If you've watched any of my previous UV resin videos, I don't use gloves when I'm doing the UV resin. This is a silicone brush in my right hand. Just putting a little bit of the UV resin from one cup to the other using my silicone brush. Silicone brush, your resin's not going to stick to, and if it were to cure on the brush, it should just peel right on off. So, love my group of silicone brushes that I have. Those will be linked as well. This is an alcohol ink just from Amazon. Shook it up. It's the pink that I wanted in there to kind of go along with that pink. Did not put much of that alcohol ink in there. If you put too much alcohol ink in your UV resin, it will thin it out and it will not cure. So just a drop gives it a pretty good pink. And now, as you can see, I'm using that same silicone brush and just layering that pink UV resin across my pink acrylic paint that's dried on the pop socket. So just adding that, adding little strips, and honestly, no waste. You see that I was able to get pretty much all of that UV resin right on out of that silicone cup, and I've applied it over to the pop socket, even spinning my silicone brush on the edge of the pop socket to get every last bit off of the brush that I could. Then I'm just using a paper towel with a little bit of alcohol, rubbing alcohol on it to wipe off my silicone brush. This alcohol ink is a Brea's Reese alcohol ink, Brea Reese. They come out really fast, so just be aware of that. But again, only one drop, that's all it takes. You'll notice that I shake my alcohol inks. They tend to separate, so you want to shake them so that you get the blended color. You'll see that this is a nice deep teal, which is what I wanted. And I'm just doing a little line here. And you'll see why as we go along. I just wanted a little bit of a line. Nothing too crazy. Just to get some of this deep, rich color in. And not being perfect lines, not, getting stressed out that the pink is running a little bit into the teal there. That's fine. Let it do what it's going to do. That's the beauty of resin. You're never going to have two productions identical because resin's always going to do what the resin's going to do. Had to pull out a new bottle of UV resin. This is Counterculture DIY UV resin. It's my favorite UV resin, my favorite resin. So I had to get a new bottle started in this project just so that we could get it finished up and I wasn't fighting with that bottle. Though I fought with this bottle to get it even open, as you could see. So then basically going to get this bottle open and we'll get some more UV resin on here so that I can start with other colors. I'm using my sharp tweezers to poke a hole and get in there. This is where a glove maybe would be beneficial, but I was very careful to make sure to not get UV resin on my hands, even grabbing the paper towel to finish ripping the seal off there. Putting our cap back on so I can squeeze that out at the top. Adding UV resin into that cup. You can see there's a big old bubble and that will get popped. And then to wipe out my cups here, it's just a little bit of rubbing alcohol on my paper towel. Wipes that right out. So as you can see, got that cleared out so that I can reuse that cup for the next portion. So for the purple, I wanted a little bit different medium. I wanted to have a mica powder. Mica powder is going to give a lot thicker of a color. Not going to be really see-through. Gotta be a little bit careful with mica powders and UV resin, just because if you have too much mica powder in it, it will not cure because that UV light does have to be able to get through and hit the resin to cure it up. So you saw just one little bit to make that, and look how vibrant that purple is. So just adding just kind of where the purple is. I have it where my finger's being put. There's no resin there, so I'm just using that to help hold this piece where I want it so that I can finish painting on the purple. You'll notice there's still a little gap between the pink and the purple. You'll see why. And of course there's that edging of the teal that's not done either. So that I'm just cleaning up as much resin as I can, getting it off my brush. And then, of course, wipe the rest off. But literally just that little bit on that silicone brush of that mica powder cleaned that right up. Made that very vibrant. So that portion is done. Now I decided that to go between the pink and the purple, I wanted to have an alcohol ink in between, and I wanted it to be purple. So I went and grabbed it, and this is a shimmer alcohol ink, and it definitely loves to separate. So giving it a good shake. I am turning it around and looking at the sides so that I can see if I got that to blend in. Not going to take much. 1 drop. That's all I do, especially on such a small project. Just really don't need much. Again, you want that UV light to be able to go through and penetrate and seal up. And so this, I'm a little bit more haphazardly with it in a sense, just adding that into that gap in that space and letting that blend however it's going to blend. Wipe off my silicone brush. Now these, oh my goodness, I got these at Hobby Lobby. Those of you who know, I don't typically pay full price for a lot of certain things. I will pay full price, but a lot of like the little inserts and additives that I use, I don't pay full price. You can see on that purple paint, there's a red sticker tag that's a clearance tag on that paint even. So, and that's a Hobby Lobby find. But this was in the jewelry shop in the UV resin, and they run typically 50% off their jewelry shop all the time. So every few weeks for sure. So at least you can pick up some goodies. And I love looking in their UV resin. So these little stones or glass pieces, I think is maybe what they're actually called. I just loved them, and I couldn't pass up buying them. They were like $2 or $3. And I was like, I have to have them. I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I must have them. It was one of those. I don't have a project in mind, but I've put it in my craft space until I find the project. Yeah, I'm kind of that person who has a little bit of everything. But then when I go to make a project, I don't have what I want, so I have to go buy more supplies. So I am adding that in that edging and space where the teal was. And as you can see, the pop socket is kind of moving on me, which was a little bit of a challenge, but I just rolled with it. If you had gloves on, you could touch the side and not worry about getting the resin on there. But I find I do better with all the gloves. So using a paper towel, clean that cup out. We'll clean the other one out in a minute. But basically I needed one free so that I could go ahead and get some more on there. I am going to add one little strip of clear. Now, if you're not confident in your spout on your UV resin and you're concerned about maybe you squeezing too much onto there, then I would suggest at that point just to put a little bit of clear in one of your cups and paint it on. But I've worked with these bottles for quite some time, so I feel confident on how much I need to squeeze it to get what I wanted. This is Armor Art. This is another counterculture DIY product that I get. It is great for creating waves in some dimension, which is why I put on that clear, a little bit of clear, because I want the white to be able to move without blending too much with the other colors was the goal. Again, you're gonna have UV resin kind of do what it wants. So I kind of, once you see the next part of this, I kind of at that point change my ultimate goal and picture on it. So I do change that. And if you're hearing jingling, it's just my dog's running around. And I think my one dog has something she's not supposed to have. So don't mind me while I grab that, because I'm not actually recording and talking. I recorded this and then am putting my voice over it. So heat gun again, and gonna move that resin around. So you see I'm coming at it from the sides. I always turn my heat gun on away from my project just so that if there's dust in it, it at least blows away from the project. So the white here is spreading out, and basically I want it to spread, but I don't want it to overpower my other colors. So I'm having to do some shifting with it, pull back from the, go ahead and make sure that I pull the gun back a little bit to let that resin flow back on, and then push it around a little more. It did overflow a little, so I'm glad that I had a silicone mat on, and then it just a quick wipe of that. And I just did very careful pick up and go ahead and wipe the edging. That way it wasn't an issue, because I didn't want it to get the UV resin to get into the pop socket part and mess with that pop socket part. So then I have our Let's Resin light. So this is a duo light. It does allow you to cure both top and bottom, but I only needed the top portion, so I just pulled the top part off, cure that up, nice and solid. And look at this cool pattern that we're getting. Looks kind of funny under the light. Looked a little divotty. I was a little bit worried that, oh no, maybe some resin got under there and is going to make this to where then you couldn't seal it. So I went ahead and popped it up so that I wouldn't have that issue anymore. And I'm going to just take some rubbing alcohol and clean up those sides so that there's not an issue. And most of that resin just came right on off. Of course, off camera a little bit, but I was just able to pop it off with my fingernail. It was cured up, but it was thin enough and it wasn't really attached. And this pop socket was more of a trial run, so it was and is for me and my phone. So not as, let's say, particular. You could tape it off to ensure that then you just peel the tape off. You could do that. Might have been a good idea. I don't know. So then I wanted to make sure that I get a good top layer, because it did kind of look in the camera there. It looked a little bumpy or uneven. It's probably just the way the mica and the alcohol inks were affecting the UV resin and the way it cured. Not a big deal, but those of us who have a pop socket on our phone would want that to be smooth. Want it to be a smooth surface and not rough, and not afraid for it to like cut you up or whatever. So just taking some clear, rubbing around to the edges, to each and every edge all the way around, just making sure that we get a clear, doing basically a dome up of it. So, and then just tedious with that silicone brush, getting that to each edge. Again, here either finger cots or gloves would probably be beneficial, but I'm this far in, I was like, we're just rolling. So I did want to get my lighter out here and just make sure that I pop any bubbles that decide to pop up. When you add alcohol ink or micas, the bubbles tend to dispute or get out on their own for me. I don't really see them, but when I'm pouring just the clear, I want to make sure there's not some random bubble in a weird spot. So here I thought, oh, I want to add a little gold decorative, because I decided it was looking less like a beach theme and more like a geode kind of situation. So I decided that let's add some gold alcohol ink. Now this is where my experiment doesn't quite go as I had sort of intended, but we're gonna watch this and play it out for you. So I put in 1 drop. Metallics definitely create a unique reaction with resin. So play around with it, see what you think, see what you like. Here's the thing, I haven't cured that clear on top of that pop socket. So I'm taking my brush and I'm just going to start drawing some random lines. Now the problem is that this made that alcohol ink, that dyed alcohol ink resin, start to spread amongst the clear resin. So I was getting very blurred lines, and it's a little bit hard to tell on this part of the video, but it will make more sense. So just be patient with that. It's gonna give more of this blurred look that just wasn't what I was going for. I was wanting a more defined line. Hindsight, probably should have cured the clear and then added the gold lines. That would have probably made a little more sense at that point, but it's okay. It happens. So when I realized that, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. So I decided 5 minutes. That's what I cured it on. Obviously, I paused the video. You didn't get that full 5 minutes. So now you can see, you can hardly see the gold. It's blurred up. So now, round 2, we are coming back with an oil pen. And I decided I didn't want the thick brush of the oil pen, so I was going to put a little bit of the paint in my silicone cup and then use my silicone brush to get the lines that I wanted. A little bit tedious, not gonna lie. Not the easiest process, but this worked, and it does. The end result comes out really cool. But nothing particular. I followed some of the other gold lines that had kind of formed and blurred up here. No set pattern, just kind of trying to be irregular form, I guess is the best way, so that it would be as natural as possible. Because as we know, nature is not going to be perfect. It's not going to have a perfect form. So that was kind of my goal, is just to give it some definition and a natural kind of look. So I just am adding that. And that resin on top is hardened, so I'm not having to worry about this leaking or blending in with the clear. This is actually going on top of that layer, so that's cured. And I did follow some of the lines that those little glass pieces were in, because I wanted to kind of follow that edging and really give it its definition on its own there. Those are just so pretty. And the video just really doesn't do them justice, but they're just so pretty. They've got some different ones. I think it's kind of like a green, red, and gold, kind of Christmassy. Maybe there's a blue in it too. I feel like there's something that makes it not Christmas. Maybe not. But I haven't bought it yet because I don't have a project for it. And I know that they'll be there, and I know the price is not going anywhere. So I'm like, I'm just going to hold off for now. But these ones I couldn't pass up. But yeah, so just kind of drawing this out. Like I said, definitely tedious. Not easy. Because periodically the paint there in the silicone cup would dry up to where I just couldn't get enough on my brush to make the lines that I wanted. So just adding little details, just kind of naturally where I saw that it went. So getting more definition. I was really worried about those gold lines being so blurred, and that was bugging me. So I definitely wanted to somewhat hide those and then also get a more defined line. Now, before I'm going to do anything else, I want that to be dry. and that to be good and dry. So heat gun it is. Blast a heat gun. Just making sure my edges were not like super rough. Do I have any crazy rough edges that I need to be aware of, clean up, or make sure that I get coated with some resin? So then I wanted to do one more layer, top coat, doming coat, even though it's already pretty well domed, but seal in that gold that I took so much time to get in place. Let's make sure that that's not going to rub off. So you can see I put a decent amount right there, and then I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to bring it to the edge, not over the edge, but to the edge, and let that resin level out. Resin's going to naturally want to level. UV resin's pretty thick, so you have some time to work with it before it will run over. Not too much time. But as you can see, I'm just going around, and I had a little drippage going over, so I'm just taking my silicone brush, bringing it back up and onto the piece so that I'm not worried about it. Fill in all of our gaps. Let that resin connect up and seal. And you'll notice that like in between the stages, I didn't really put my fingers on that top of that pop socket because I don't want to get the oils for my fingers on it and then make the UV resin be repelled off of it. Did have some drippage. I'd put a little too much on there. So just using paper towel with a little bit of that rubbing alcohol, clean that up, wipe off our pad, really easy. Plus, once it cures up on the mat there, it is going to be solid and be able to come off. Another 5 minutes so that we get a good hard base. And then look at this. It is so darn gorgeous. I just love it. I love how it came out. It's so shiny, crystal clear. Yes, you can see my little blended gold. Camera had to adjust, but I'm just in love. So I hope you guys enjoyed that quick little tutorial. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. We'll see you again next week. Bye.